Sundance Film Festival. So everybody's familiar with the Sundance Film Festival. Everybody's heard of the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Redford started this thing 30-something years ago, and it's the biggest American independent festival around, where kind of it's the launch to festival season. So I just got back from Sundance, was there a week or so ago, and I guess I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of what's going on out there.
How was it? I mean, was it exhilarating to be in that environment?
You know, it's kind of cool. You know, I got a text the one day that I was there and said, "Hey, have you had any celebrity sightings yet?" And I was like, "No, you know, I'm not invited to those kind of parties, of course." So as soon as I say that, then the next day I had a meeting with IMDb Pro and Amazon Video Direct, and I was in their space meeting with them, and oh, here comes Jeremy Renner. You know, he's hanging out because they were doing interviews in the IMDb studio, and then there's Elizabeth Olsen, who was doing interviews with him, and then there's Tim Robbins, and so you know I'm just kind of sitting there hanging out, and they're milling about doing it. So there was my celebrity sightings. It doesn't, not that it means anything, but
Right.
it was kind of cool. And then the next day I was in the Variety studio, and Common was in there, and then Tim Robbins again, and so. Just kind of one of those things is sometimes when you're there, you just kind of, it's very low key. It's not super glitzy, glamorous like a Cannes Film Festival kind of thing. It's kind of low key, but everybody just kind of hanging out. And if you leave them alone, you know, it's all good. So that's just one little aspect to it, but that's not really what, you know, Sundance is all about. More than anything, you know, Sundance is that opportunity for filmmakers to really be discovered and get that distribution deal and really become something. You know, it's kind of where, you know, so I know an executive from a major studio that goes to Sundance specifically to watch films, to look for up-and-coming talent as directors. You know, somebody that can handle a major studio film, you know, a $200 million film. You know, they're looking for their style as an indie filmmaker and then, you know, launch them into something bigger. And so that's why it's so important for, you know, for filmmakers kind of coming up is to, you know, get into Sundance, because it's kind of where they get discovered, where they get that start as the indie filmmaker. But Sundance is a little interesting like that because, you know, you think of it as being very indie, but it's one of those festivals where you really got to know someone on the programming team to get in. Yeah, to get in. Even the short films, I think they get something like 11,000 short films submitted to the festival, and 1% or less than 1% of films actually make it. So it's one of those things that, you know, if you're a filmmaker and you're making a short film or an indie film, you're like, I'm going to submit to Sundance. Know ahead of time that pretty much you're just going to be giving them your $80 or $90, with a very slim outside chance you'll actually make the festival.
Okay.
You know, I guess it's worth it because there's always a chance, but.
Do you think, you saw many films, I mean, you talk about politics. Do you think that quality sometimes is diminished in certain films? Have you seen at Sundance, you think, my God, how did these guys get in?
Well, you know, so the interesting thing about Sundance is it's not just necessarily the quality of the film. I think it is the subject matter is important at Sundance. So, you know, film festivals a lot of times have you know, many people know that I founded the Sunscreen Film Festival. Yeah. And they'll ask me, and they'll be like, what's the theme of your festival? You know, and I always say, well, if it's good, we want to play it. But that's not the case for all festivals. A lot of festivals like Sundance, you know, is it something that's socially impactful? You know, so you get a lot of films about, you know, people in bad situations, whether it deals with race or women's issues or, you know, rape or whatever. You know, it's
more socially conscious.
Yeah, very much a socially conscious kind of thing as far as the American sensibility, how it relates to the American sensibility. So that's, you know, very Sundance-y kind of films. But interestingly enough, during Sundance, there is another festival that happens in Park City, Utah at the exact same time called Slamdance. So some people are familiar with Slamdance and other people are not. And Slamdance is even more like super indie. It's basically built for first-time filmmakers. So if you're a first-time filmmaker or you have a first-time feature or something, you know, Slamdance runs at the same time as Sundance in Park City at the Treasure Mountain Inn right on Main Street there. And it's great. It's been going on for 20-plus years, and it's an opportunity for those filmmakers to be there at the same time.
Wow, that's great.
So it's very cool, and I think it's, you know, Slamdance for a lot of people is more realistic and more attainable, and it's a well-known festival with a great reputation.
And did he get a trickle-across effect?
Yeah, and so people, you know, because there's a lot of studio executives and a lot of people there that matter in the business that, that you can meet while you're there. And these festivals like this are interesting because, it's one of those things where everybody asks you, what party are you going to? What party are you going to? Are you going to a party? What party? So there's always somebody or some thing or some entity or some, is having the Variety party, or it's the Sony party, or it's the Amazon party, or whatever. And again, it depends if you're getting invited to those. But there are a lot of other types of events that go on that you can go to. All of Main Street is basically lined with, all these normal businesses, whether they're restaurants or art galleries or whatever else. And during the 10 days of Sundance, all those businesses basically rent out their spaces to other stuff. So YouTube had a space, had a storefront.
Wow, that's awesome.
IMDb had a storefront. Okay. In years past, Kickstarter's had a space there. Okay. Variety has a space. So it's interesting. It's a little bit different each year.
Almost sounds like a trade show.
Yeah, well, it essentially kind of is.
Wow.
Cool. Kind of is. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about film festivals. They see the red carpets and the celebrities, but these things are essentially trade shows for the industry. So Sundance, Cannes, Berlin, Toronto, American Film Market, which I talked a little bit about on one of our podcasts as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and it's a great place to meet people, but you have to kind of weed through a lot of the BS at the same time.
I really want to go so bad.
Yeah, it's great. I'm not a big fan of the icky snow.
Yeah,
people are like, oh, why don't you go snowboarding while you're there? Why don't you enjoy yourself? I was like, yeah, that would make a spectacular headline. St. Petersburg-Clearwater Film Commissioner snowboards on county taxpayer money. So,
Exactly.
So no, I did not do anything enjoyable while I was there. I strictly worked.
Tony, if you ever need anybody to carry your luggage, bag boy, I am your man.
And it's interesting. It's actually really expensive, Sundance.
Yeah.
Because it's getting an apartment or whatever, or a condo or a hotel room. They're crazy prices. So a lot of times you have to stay a little bit outside of town. And I think it's Sundance's outgrown Park City. Like it's so, I stayed 5 miles out and would Uber in every day and spent almost $300 on Ubers getting around.
Wow.
And it's just it's hard to get in, and traffic gets clogged up. So while there are a lot of benefits, of course, industry-wise, when you look at the reality behind the scenes, it can be a big, sort of pain in the butt too.
That's incredible.
But it was a good experience, and always good, And as a result, I've made some great connections for the Film Commission. I have a conference call tomorrow, actually, on a potential feature film for the area, and because of someone that I met at Sundance. So we'll see how it all comes around.
I know I'm flipping the script. I'm interviewing you.
That's
about
okay.
This, but I wanted to ask you. You have taken the St. Pete Film Commission here at Clearwater Film Commission to another level as far as getting into a lot of these various film festivals. With Sundance, were there a lot of film commissions that you noticed who were there as well?
Yeah, actually, film commissions have a big presence there. It's one of those things that, with just me being there, that's okay. But there are other film commissions that'll have, like the Utah Film Commission, of course, because it takes place in Utah, through a big party in Sundance where they invite all kinds of people. And the Miami Film Commission partnered up with the Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau for stuff at the Variety space.
Oh, that's great.
The Missouri Film Commission had a big party. So all these other film commissions do have a big presence, and they spend money having events because you want to draw people together so that you have an opportunity to network with them basically, and it's advertising and branding and getting your name out there.
Got it. That's awesome. Yeah. Sounds like.
Well, thank you for interviewing me on on the Film Commission podcast here.
This is great.
Yeah. So next up, Jacob Pierce is going to do our unboxing segment. So let's throw it over to Jacob and see what he has to talk about today.